Hi, this is Natural Health for All Ages. I'm Dr. Jean Wagner, Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine, which is a branch of medicine that looks to help people improve their health using natural means. And our topic today is natural health for women's health. And I have herbalist Cassie Meislick with me today from Columbia. She has a place called Hilltop Barn, and she gives talks and workshops at her farm out there, as well as does community talks, also community education. So Cassie, you want to introduce yourself a little bit, tell a little bit more about what you do?
I will. I'm Cassie Meislick. I live outside of Columbiaville, Michigan, which is not too far from here. And we have part of a 80-acre farm that was parceled off, and we've let it go natural, and there's where I teach. I teach herbal things, I teach some fun things, garden art and things like that occasionally, and I do groups. I'm a self-taught herbalist, a little bit of my grandma's recipes also, and that's how I came to be where I'm at.
Okay, great. Well, today we're talking about women's health. So, generally, here's, women, what makes us different than men? Our hormonal health is to make, us to have nice shiny hair, nice soft skin, a little curvier of a figure, and able to, produce children, have that fertility factor. The hormonal shift during the months is meant so that, we can bring children into the world and be able to sustain that growth and sustain the children and the babies once they're born. Which, if your hormones are in balance, then of course everything is, lovely, and everything is, it makes, women, more beautiful and attractive. But when your hormones are out of whack, then of course there can be so many problems, and it causes a lot of, stress and ill health in a lot of women nowadays. So I just wanted to briefly say, of course we're going to do a lot with herbs here and some with homeopathic remedies. But, obviously your diet is important. If you're just surviving on like pizza and pop and coffee, then obviously you're not going to get the nutrition in, to help your hormones. And your hormones are all made out of fats. So you want to make sure you're not doing the hydrogenated fats, you're not doing the trans fats. You want the good fats in there, even, to make the hormones with. Also, a lot of problems with women's health is the liver, if it gets congested or if there's too much estrogen floating around in the body, because you want that balance of hormones. If it's out of balance, you need things that will take the excess estrogen and the excess hormones out of the body, which is a good thing to use is fiber. Fiber, when you eat it, will go through, and the liver gets rid of excess hormones. It will pump it out into your intestines. If you have fiber there, it's going to grab onto those excess hormones and take it out of the body. If you don't have fiber, a lot of those estrogen can be reabsorbed. So you're making fresh hormones, you're reabsorbing the old hormones, and you're just getting out of balance. So fiber is very important in the diet as well, especially to help the liver along, as well as bitters. Bitters really help the liver secrete a lot of the stuff that is cleaned out of the blood, so it can get it into the intestines. So that is, one thing that you want. So your basic good nutrition, your fruits and vegetables, get enough protein, your good fats. Generally, those are very important for just general hormonal health. Now we're going to talk a lot about some herbs that will help to supply the body with the nutrients, because herbs themselves are very nutritious, and different herbs have different nutrients in them, and when we consume them, they can help, if we're deficient in certain things, and help channel the body into certain ways that we want them to go if we're out of balance. So Cassie, what are some of your favorite herbs for women's health?
Women's health. Well, I'm going to touch on 5 of them. Mainly because if you're just starting with herbs, if you start simple and just concentrate on a few, and it's just going to be 5 for right now, I think you're more likely to continue with that. And I'm going to start with red clover. Red clover, obviously you don't garden it unless it's coming up wild in your garden, which is fine, leave it, a little bit of weeds won't hurt in your garden. Wild clover, red clover, has a natural estrogen. Actually, I think it's a progesterone, if I'm not mistaken. And it helps balance you if you take the whole herb. You can have it as a tea. And everything that I'm recommending here basically is for a tea. It's a gentle way to induce an herb into your body. You really couldn't, that I can think of, overdose on something like that. You'd have to drink an awful lot of tea.
And usually with teas, if something is toxic, with you taking a capsule, a lot of times you can take too much because your body doesn't taste it. Where if you do a tea, if it's too toxic, you're going to vomit it up, and so your body
your body's going to reject it quite quickly. The other thing too is some toxic things just are nasty. And I'll give you a quick example. There was a berry that I hadn't noticed before, and I stopped to pick it on the path, popped it in my mouth, and quickly spit it out. Went down to the potting barn and rinsed my mouth out, went back up to identify it better, and it was a nightshade family. It was nasty. You wouldn't have eaten it anyway, but it doesn't mean you wouldn't have spit that out in a capsule. But for whatever reason, somebody would put it in there. But red clover is an easy thing to find. Most people know what red clover is. They know what clover is. The red clover has a nice big, larger than the burdock, pinky red flower. You can pick your own, or you can buy it. If you do pick your own, you can use it fresh. And to make an infusion, because it's not really a tea. Tea, we use the word tea, but they're just infusions. If you use it fresh, it's really quite sweet, and it's nice with a little bit of honey. You can use just the blossom. If you buy it dried, you're probably going to find it at the health food stores in bulk, probably not in bags, but in a loose bulk. It's a good one to start with.
And a lot of times if you're making, tea with a bulk, you can get one of these little, herb balls.
Tea strainer.
Right, tea strainer. You just grab some of the tea. You can stick it in your teapot with the water for, however long. Usually with fresh infusions, you don't leave them that long.
Well, for the medicinal part of it, what I tell people is put it in, pour your boiling water over it, cover it, and if you're doing it in a teapot like Gina's brought, it's great because they have tops, and leave it steep for about 15 minutes. It'll cool off a little bit maybe, but not much if you put a cozy or something over it, and that way it'll extract. Water sometimes doesn't extract very fast, and even hot water.
Right, if you want it just loose, you can just put it loose in your teapot and then strain it before you put it into the cup.
Teacup.
So that it's catching the loose leaves before they fall into your cup. But if you eat the loose leaves, it's not going to matter. If you have something more like dandelion root that's a root, you could usually want to have it, sit in the water for like up to an hour to get some of the...
Yes, because in that you're going to not always get it that form, but that's really hard. It's very stone-like, so it takes a while to extract the water, to extract the nutrients from there.
Right.
Yeah, so you will need to, whatever form you're using it with, a flower or a root, which that's dried root, or the leaf, will also make a difference in how long you steep it.
Right.
Yep. Another thing I wanted to talk about was raspberry leaf. It helps your endocrine system. It also has iron and manganese in it.
This is my red raspberries.
That's her red raspberries. In fact, look at there. She's got
it's
berries
trying to bloom
on
again
it, right?
this year.
And with raspberry, the leaf is usually used as a tea. But red raspberries themselves are a really good thing to eat.
Right.
I would advocate, please find organic or find wild. Raspberries are very heavily sprayed. And I always search for either organic or wild. And I have a bonus. Where I live is a very rural area, so I can pick a lot of wild things.
Right.
So with raspberries, you have a choice. You either have wild ones, and if you're lucky enough to have them and want to go pick them, good, but you can buy them. The next is borage, and usually borage doesn't grow wild around our area. I've never seen it. It probably does.
Does evening primrose grow here?
I've never found evening primrose
Okay.
either.
Because they're related. They're
yeah,
similar oils.
Same type of oil. But borage is very common in an herb garden. It has a wonderful blue flower, and I see it in a lot of people's herb gardens. And you can buy that dried also. If you grow your own, you got a bonus. You can dry your own. You know where it's come from. You grew it. You know what you've put into it, what's on it, and that is a really good herb also for women's health.
Right, and the borage and the evening primrose, they have essential oils in them that really are essential. A lot of times if people have PMS, they have a lot of problems menstrually, then those fats are very beneficial at being anti-inflammatory and helping the hormone system work well.
For one digression, I used evening primrose for myself when I was having some problems with my knees.
Right.
Worked wonderfully for me.
Right,
I'm not saying
essential fats, right.
Right. It helped with the arthritis in my knees. It helped with the swelling. It helped with the stiffness, and it worked. Okay, so let's go on to dandelion. I really should start with dandelion because everybody can recognize dandelion.
Right. And this is the dandelion root when it's dried. You can probably dig your own if you want to dig it out of your yard if you don't have pesticides.
Yep, and you know the best time to dig root is in the fall. You have to think about the plant cycle. Plants in the spring, what you want to use are the leaves because they're taking all of their nutrients that they stored, if it's a perennial, in the winter and putting it into the leaf production, so everything's going to be in the leaf in the spring. But past summer, if you want to dig for things, that's right about now. I'd say September, all the nutrients are going back in and they're storing them to survive over the winter. And I think down in this nice little bundle that I brought Jean, that there are some wild things in there. There are some dandelion weeds, leaves.
But you can recognize it. I mean,
they
say it came from, Dent de Lion, which is a lion's tooth, and it has his big jags in the leaves. But you recognize it by the yellow flower. But in the spring, those big jags in the leaf are like, a lion's teeth.
And there's another plant, chicory, that's in the. You can use chicory if you can identify it, and dandelion the same way. And sometimes when they're first coming in the spring, you can't tell the difference between the dandelion and the chicory. Which is okay because
I always
they're the
find
same
chicory
thing.
grows along the roads, and I'm like, well, there's all that pollution from the roads.
No, if you're going to gather out in the wild, please don't gather near a golf course. And I golf, so I know.
A lot of pesticides.
Yeah, I mean, they need to keep that in a certain condition, or along roads. If you are going to gather along a road, you'd better walk into the field a ways, past the ditch too. You don't want to gather out of some of the ditches because ditches carry a lot of things that you don't want to ingest. The best place to find is somewhere that they don't spray. And you're welcome to come to my place and I'll let you pick all the dandelions you want.
Right, and we'll have your contact information on the end of the talk. But again, with the herbicides, pesticides, a lot of them mimic estrogen in your body, so it makes so you have a huge estrogenic effect and your body's just overwhelmed, as well as things like plastic. There's plastic bags and plastic food wrap and plastic containers, and they all have estrogenic effects, especially if you heat your food. Never heat your food if you have plastic wrap over it. If you store your food in plastic containers because they're convenient, but take your food out, warm it in something that's not plastic before you consume it, because as you heat it up, all those fake estrogens get into the food and you consume them. So that's, again, harmful for you.
Yeah, and I do store things in plastic. I would never heat them in plastic. And I don't use a microwave anymore for my food either. But, a lot of people still do. Take it out of the plastic. Corningware is a good thing. Glass, Pyrex, and things like that. That'll work better.
Right.
Let's see, motherwort. And motherwort is a very women-specific herb.
With a name.
It is.
Mother.
There's a reason why they call it that. It's really good for PMS and menopausal problems. It is hard to find. You can find it in health food stores. It is harder to find in the wild. I don't find it along my areas that much, but I do have it once in a while coming up. but everything that a woman's body needs will usually come from mother's wort, other than the essential oil part. I don't think it's very strong in that particular herb. But those are my 5, not necessarily favorite, but 5 easiest ones to start with. And let me tell you that just because it works for me, or maybe for Jean, it might not necessarily work for you. So I'm giving you 5 to try. Try them one at a time. Maybe try the clover for a week and see if you notice any difference. If you don't, try another one. But don't try to combine them until you know what it's like. Wouldn't you think a week or so would be a reasonable amount?
Probably, unless you just have the problem once a month, and then
Right.
you might try it for a couple weeks before the problem usually starts, and then you can say, okay, well, this month was different, or
Yeah, that's a good
this month
point,
was
too.
worse, or something like that. So you want to be able to, but if you have more of a chronic problem, say like, cystic ovaries, or if you have, just, problems, other types.
Endometriosis, something like that.
Endometriosis is a good one. That's a chronic problem. Then you can probably, that one would probably take longer to see a difference.
Oh, yes.
Because
It
that's
would.
more of a
And that's a
severe
chronic
problem.
thing. Then I don't, other than, actually none of these. All of these could be used on an everyday basis as a tea for a long time.
Right.
You're not, there are some things like licorice, and not the black stuff we get at the holidays.
fennel-flavored one.
We're talking about the plant. That's a limited time amount you should use that.
Right, it can,
It
raise your
damage
blood pressure
it can-
over time.
It can damage your liver over a long time too. But these herbs are relatively mild. When you use them as a tea, it helps to dilute it, so it's a lot different than swallowing a capsule. And I would prefer people to start them that way as a tea, because you're not going to, one is good, 10 would be better.
Right.
Right. And so you have to, you're more aware of it, and it's a subtler thing, so you do have to give yourself a week or 2 on it.
And the dandelion itself, you can eat the fresh leaves. Like in the spring, if it's growing in your yard, you don't use pesticides. You can always go and gather it. If you can eat it in salads, you can eat it, steamed a little bit. It's very bitter, so it has that bitter quality that helps the liver get rid of all the junk that it's filtered out of your blood, like the old estrogen, the old hormones, any pesticides, things like that. It helps to stimulate the liver to make more bile, to get the junk out, makes the bile more fluid, makes the gallbladder contract. So if people have gallbladder problems as well, sometimes a lot of people, if they have excess estrogen, their hormones are bad, their gallbladder is bad too. So dandelion also helps the gallbladder, and any type of cleansing herb, like the burdock itself. Of course, if you have a dog, because it gets stuck in their fur. This grows in my yard. I have 3 plants, and it has most tenacious root. I can have a plant that's like 4 inches tall, and I cannot pull out the root. I have to get a shovel because the root is stuck in the ground like crazy.
I don't think I've ever successfully pulled up the whole root until it's through, because this is a biennial plant, so you can't really get it all out until it dies the 2nd year, and then everything shrinks and you can yank the whole thing out.
So it's like your nature's Velcro, it sticks, and you're not going to eat the tops. What you're looking for is the root. So, but you can definitely, tell if you have it in the fall. It's like, oh, well, there it is. And fall, again, is a good time to harvest it. So you can say, okay, there's the tops. Well, I can just get out my shovel, dig up the root. And the root is very cleansing, to the body. So anything that cleanses out old things and helps rejuvenate the body is going to be helpful for your hormonal system. Again, to help the new, get out the old, help nothing stagnate and cause problems. So again, the burdock is a good root to have around. As for me, for the naturopathic medicine, there's a couple other things I do in addition to herbs. There's a lot of good homeopathics for women's health. If people, are having a tremendous amount of trouble with their periods, things like sepia, it's a good remedy. You probably can't read the label, but it's a very common remedy for a women's problem. There's also like colocynthis, which is very good for cramping, and a lot of the herbs for women that are the homeopathic remedies are made from herbs.
Right.
Like viburnum, is a good cramping remedy as well. There are combination homeopathics. I'm not as I don't like them as well. It's like if someone's desperate and they want to try a combination remedy, but a lot of times it's better to individualize your symptoms, because if homeopathic remedy, if you take one and the remedy that you need is not in here, then you probably won't get much of a result and you might be disappointed. But if you get, a lot of times you can either read books, choose the one that's similar to your symptoms, or go to a professional that does homeopathy, match up your symptoms, and a lot of times you can get tremendous good results because it helps your body correct itself so that...
right, it's not forcing...
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's not forcing, it's helping your body to heal itself.
Right.
I use several homeopathic remedies if the need arises.
Right, and they're good for acute things, they're good for chronic problems. Some are more specifically known for women's problems. Sometimes even like nutritionally, like your ovaries may need a lot of nutrition, but nobody knows exactly all the components that make up an ovary or all the components that make up a liver. So sometimes it's useful just for nutrition-wise. You can also get like some protomorphogens, like which are made out of like animal glandulars, so that it has everything that an ovary needs in there. So you can specifically get nutrition that's more specific to that part of the body. So sometimes I use that as well, because a lot of people don't eat organ meats anymore, and a lot of people aren't going to.
No. So, if you can't convince somebody who never grew up with any of it, you really can't, other than maybe liver pate.
So, right. So a lot of times it's easier to use a supplement, in that way. Or also, have you ever used castor oil, like the packs, like externally?
I grew up with a grandmother that came from Poland. I never saw a doctor until I was probably a teenager.
Oh, good.
I had a lot of those things all over my body.
Well, you can get castor oil. You want to get a good brand, like an organic brand from like a health food store. You just put it on some flannel. You can warm it up, and you put it over your liver, which is on your right side, right underneath your ribs. Here. And you put the pack on there, and then you cover it up, because it'll stain your clothes. It's an oil.
Oh, yeah. Wear something older. Yeah.
Right, because it's very oily.
A painting shirt.
So put that over top, but maybe put like a hot water bottle, something that's going to warm it up. And the castor oil will actually get into your skin. It actually helps the lymphatics around the liver, kind of stimulates the liver to, again, not be so stagnant, get rid of the bad stuff, helps it to detoxify all those chemicals that you are exposed to every day through pollution. And
no matter how careful you are, there's something that's going to slip through.
Right, and you can do those every day. Some people I know have actually just rubbed it on and they go into a bath because the oil is not going to be washed away just by...
that's a good idea.
They say it's a cleaner way to do. You don't have to mess with the cloth or whatever,
and the hot water.
The heat is necessary, because that makes the oil more fluid, and it can go into the skin better. And then when you're done, you can usually take some like baking soda, and it helps to get the oil off, and wash it well. And
or a good old-fashioned handmade soap too.
Right.
Yeah. When you were talking about cramps, I did want to add a couple things. For one thing, the motherwort that I talked about is good for cramps. Also, black and blue cohosh and yarrow.
Right. And the black cohosh is specifically known for menopausal symptoms as well. So if a person is menopausal, then that is known to help balance out the hormones as well. Even like, if you use chasteberry tree a lot.
No, I don't.
No,
not personally, but it is recommended in a lot of herbalists. And then the other thing too about cohosh is black and blue cohosh complement each other too.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah, I never knew that.
Do they grow around here?
I've never found it.
Okay.
And
you can get any of these herbs from a health food store.
Yes, you don't
or by mail
search
order
through the woods for weeks. No.
So it depends. If you want to, just kind of take a walk and gather your own. But if you can't do it, you don't have the time, or it's just easier to find something already prepackaged, then it's available out there.
Go to a reputable store. There are a lot of nice herb stores around that will have packaging nice things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Hot flashes. You can use evening primrose, sage, plain old garden sage in
You
a
had
tea.
some sage here, don't
Yep,
you?
I've got sage in my bundle right there, plain old garden
And
sage.
usually people can recognize it if you
Yeah.
rub it with your fingers.
Yeah, oh, sage is not too.
Has a very
yeah,
distinctive
There's
smell.
something to use that for besides your turkey dressing.
Right.
What else? A blue and black cohosh again for hot flashes.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, things like vitamin E can also help
Yeah.
that as well, stabilize the vasculature so it's not so reactive.
So, personally, that's what I used when I was going through menopause.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was vitamin E.
Okay,
It
good.
helped. It helped me. Now, I'm going to reiterate again. Just because it helped me doesn't mean it's going to work. We're all unique. Our chemicals,
Right.
We're
and certain
all
people
unique.
have, you know, the way their body functions, they need more of a nutrient than other people. And so the different herbs, again, they have different nutrition. So you might do better with one. And all the herbs have different properties to them, like cooling, warming. So if it depends on your body, you know, if you're a generally chilly person and you have a cooling herb, it's probably not going to act that well. You need like more of a warming herb and, you know, things that will go along with your body.
Balancing herbs, violet are balancing herb, mints are balancing herbs. You know, with mint, if you're hot, you can use iced tea. Mint iced tea, you know.
Which is
if
very
you're
tasty.
cold, you know, it balances you. Yeah.
Right,
That's
right.
Huh? Okay.
Okay, well that was just some information. We'll have Cassie's contact information if you have a group that wants, you know, an herb talk, or you can go out to her place in Columbiaville, take an herb walk. She points out the herbs that are there. You can do crafts there. Again, if you need some more professional help as well, my information also is at the end of this talk. So this was Natural Health for All Ages, and look for future episodes on TV. Thank you.